Hey guys, SuperHorrorBro Mike here, and in today's video, we take a look at the upcoming follow-up to Bendy and the Ink Machine, Bendy and the Dar Revival. So far, this new Bendy project from developers Kindly Beast has been shrouded in secrecy, with only a teaser trailer and some audio logs giving any indication of what exactly the concept may be. Furthermore, we don't know exactly which characters from the original game will return, as it has been stated that the Dar Revival isn't a direct sequel or prequel to Bendy and the Ink Machine either. It does seem likely, based on the teasers so far, that most of the cast will make a return in this follow-up though. With that in mind, it's time to speculate as to who the villain of this new game may be. Think back to the final audio log teaser and we heard this mysterious voice.
How very interesting. Such knowledge.
The recording was labelled as unknown, and this, coupled with the idea of potential new characters with new motivations appearing in the Dar Revival, led me to theorise that the voice on this recording belonged to a completely new protagonist. A necromancer or alchemist type character who was looking to harness the dark powers residing within the Ink Machine for his own sinister gain. This theory will be linked at the end of the video if you wish to check it out. The other possibility was that this voice may belong to Sammy Lawrence, the crazed music director from Bendy and the Ink Machine Chapter 2 and 5. In my previous analysis, I had hand-waved the notion of Sammy's return, despite the voice sounding slightly similar. I hadn't ruled it out completely, but I felt it was unlikely as it seemed more probable the antagonist in this new game would be a brand new character. However, as the months since this reveal went by, there has been some evidence that Sammy may well in fact be one of the main focus points in the Dar Revival. So maybe this is Sammy in the recording after all. In this video, we will be exploring the idea of Sammy as the central villain of this new game, what evidence there is to support this, and also how the plot of the game may play out with this information in mind. So let us begin with the evidence we do have to support this theory. The first and most obvious explanation for why the voice on this unknown recording may belong to Sammy Lawrence is a pretty simple one. They sound very similar to one another. It's not immediately obvious, but if you listen closely to the voice of this new character, it does sound like Sammy Lawrence's voice actor, Aaron Landon. Listen to this comparison between a clip from Sammy and one from this unknown audio.
Soon he will hear me. He will set us free. How very interesting.
Can you tell how the voice, while different in tone, does sound very close to everyone's favourite psychotic musician? Here it is one more time.
Soon he will hear me. He will set us free. How very interesting.
We must remember that the theme of this game is rebirth and revival, and of course Sammy has been reborn once before after his death in Chapter 2 of Bendy and the Ink Machine. Sammy was then reborn and reappeared to fight Henry during the middle of the game's final chapter. However, his voice had altered and now sounded slightly different. Check out the comparison here between the Sammy of Chapter 2 and that of his rebirth in Chapter 5.
And then I will finally be freed from this prison, this inky, dark abyss.
You said I'd be free. Well, I'm going to free you now. Free your head right off your shoulders.
As you can tell, there's a fairly significant change there, and this would suggest that a person reborn from the ink wouldn't always be perfectly replicated. We've heard characters such as Alice Angel comment on the reanimation process before. She mentioned her original reincarnation was as a wiggling, pussing, shapeless slug. It seems Sammy Lawrence maintained his body, but his voice became damaged or altered during rebirth, and again this seems to be the case in his Dar Revival incarnation. Think of it as this metaphor. An artist can redraw the same image over and over again, yet it will never be exactly the same. There will always be slight differences between the original and new sketch. This principle seems to be applied to the ink machine and its creation of those born from it. It can bring Sammy back again and again, but he may have differences which may manifest both in his mental and physical state, explaining both why he sounds and thinks differently in this unknown audio log. He is a reincarnation, but not a perfect one. The next piece of evidence to present today comes in the form of real-world advertising for the new Bendy game. Before we jump into this next section of today's theory, a quick shout out to a fellow Bendy fan over on Twitter by the name of Sammy Jammy. Sammy posted this tweet which really got me thinking about Sammy as a possible candidate for Dark Revival's main antagonist, specifically this next portion of the video where we touch on social media association. Some great detective work there. You may or may not know that the team behind the Bendy franchise have been advertising via billboards found around Orlando, Florida. They actively encourage people to take their pictures by one of these billboards and tag them on social media. So if you're on Twitter and see one of these boards about, let them know about it. What's interesting about these banners in relation to today's theory is the writing upon them. Slogans from Bendy and the Ink Machine, specifically phrases we associate with Sammy Lawrence. It's time to believe, and who's laughing now? We have seen the former used alongside an image of Sammy in previous marketing for the original game. So advertising one of Sammy's famous quotations in the marketing of Bendy during the build-up to Bendy and the Dark Revival seems like a major coincidence and something we shouldn't overlook. But the plot thickens further when we take a trip over to the official Bendy Twitter account, where recently many posts included the phrase "little sheep", again one of Sammy's known sayings.
For our Lord is calling to us, my little sheep.
Of course this could easily be a coincidence, but it does make us wonder if the focus on Sammy Lawrence and his expressions are so centre stage because he's soon to be revealed as a major part of the upcoming game. Finally, the last piece of evidence for explaining why Sammy may be this mysterious character comes when looking at the broader theme for this new game, the theme of Reawakening. When the reveal trailer was released, it came with the slogan, "Return to the studio, someone has awakened the darkness." This phrasing focuses on returning to a familiar place, as well as a particular person who then awakens the darkness. Obviously the return to the studio line is aimed at us as the player, inviting us back to the studio. However, the "someone who reawakens the darkness" line is ambiguous. If it is Sammy Lawrence who has reawakened the darkness, then why would this be? Well, we need to remember that this is a retelling of events and not a sequel or prequel. Recently, The Meatly, one of the game's two main creators, tweeted out the following. Every day when I sit down to do some game development, my goal is always, what can I do that's totally different? It's always a fun challenge to see where I can go with a super weird idea. This sounds like, if applied to the plot, the story for Bendy and the Dark Revival will be something pretty original and rarely seen, and the only thing that I can think of is that it will be a completely new story detached from the previous game, but in the same universe and with the same characters. A Dark Revival where this time the world created by the Ink Machine will be home to much creepier versions of previous characters and a darker and more horrifying story than ever before. Remember back to Joey Drew's apartment at the end of Bendy and the Ink Machine. It seems as though he was creating a number of different storylines to feed into his ink machine. If these storyboards are templates which would create new scenarios for those poor souls trapped within the ink, then it is completely logical to conclude the story of the Dark Revival may not even reference the previous game at all and start everything anew, rebirthing the cast in a completely new storyline where, rather than worshipping the ink demon, Sammy is now the villain looking to harness his power and that of the ink machine that has created him. Why would Joey do this? Perhaps as Henry became stuck in a never-ending loop, Joey decided to change the story being told in an attempt to see if things may end up differently. this time giving power to Sammy within the machine and making him the central villain in place of Bendy. Although, let's be honest, Joey really is the bad guy here, right? It feels a little premature to try and work out the plot for this new game when we know so little about everything. We really need more to go on. However, it would be interesting if this Dark Revival extended beyond Sammy and meant previously good characters had a far darker nature in this new game. Characters such as Allison and Tom, or even Henry, may be very different if they make a reappearance. Hopefully, throughout this short video you have seen enough evidence to entertain the notion of Sammy as the main villain in this new game, although it may be a new character altogether on this tape as stated in my previous analysis. I simply wanted to look at the other side of the argument in today's video with a brand new theory, and personally I would be very excited if Sammy does return in a central role, as Sammy was one of my favourite characters from the original Bendy game. He was one of the most interesting characters in Bendy and the Ink Machine, and I really think there's a lot to explore with his character in this follow-up game, and I think that's pretty exciting. But as always guys, let me know what you think in the comments section below. And that's it for today's video. Please remember to give it a like if you did enjoy watching, and maybe drop a comment too, as well as subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications so you never miss an upload. This channel specializes in variety horror content, including creepypasta readings, horror gaming facts and theories, and general interest pop culture horror videos. So if you're interested in all things spooky, you'll find something to enjoy here at SuperHorrorBro. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.